But we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States.
America is losing its currency crown. Amid harsh tariffs, unprecedented politicization of trade, and growing global instability, the world is step by step moving away from dependence on the dollar. BRICS. A group of countries once perceived by the West as merely a regional coalition is preparing to deliver the most powerful blow to the dollar in its entire history. The silent accumulation of more than 600 tons of gold by BRICS countries over the course of 2 years was the first alarming signal. But that is only the tip of the iceberg. Following this came the launch of the fully decentralized payment system BRICS Pay, built on blockchain technology. A new currency? It is already in development. An alternative to SWIFT? It is being implemented. The goal? The complete exclusion of the dollar from international trade between member states of the alliance. The U.S. response was not long in coming. President Donald Trump declared that any country developing or supporting an alternative to the dollar would immediately face 100% tariffs and a full ban from the American market. This is a red economic line, he stated. However, at a time when dollar dominance is no longer taken as an axiom, such a statement provoked more shock than fear. Brazil was the first to respond decisively, as the chair of BRICS in 2024. Despite Washington's ultimatum, the country launched the SML cross-border settlement system using only the Brazilian real, beginning trade with Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, bypassing the dollar. In parallel, the international expansion of the PIX platform with more than 150 million users. Brazil's initiative quickly resonated. India and Russia are already conducting oil deals in rupees and rubles. Iran and Russia have integrated their banking systems, bypassing SWIFT. China and Brazil have signed agreements to settle transactions in yuan and reais. South Africa has increased its trade volume with Beijing using the Chinese currency. And then came what Washington feared most, the expansion of BRICS. The inclusion of countries such as Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, Indonesia, and the UAE reshaped the entire geoeconomic architecture. This is no longer just an alliance of developing nations. It is the nucleus of a new global economic order. Against this backdrop, U.S. markets began to crack. Within 24 hours after Trump's announcement of 100% tariffs, NASDAQ dropped by 2%, and the S&P 500 fell by 1.1%. The GDP forecasting model from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta showed an expected decline of 1.8% in the first quarter of 2025. On the agenda, stagflation. The trade wars have also spread to allies. Europe is on the verge of an open economic conflict with the United States. The European Union has warned it will respond to Trump's protectionist policies with symmetrical measures. The U.S. exports $600 billion worth of goods to the EU annually, but now Brussels is preparing to impose retaliatory tariffs on products from states loyal to the Trump administration. Tesla has found itself at the center of this storm. In Norway, previously a key market for the company, its market share dropped from 21.7% to 7.4%. In the United Kingdom, 59% of buyers said they would not purchase a Tesla vehicle due to Elon Musk's political statements. Major investors such as Pension Denmark sold off all Tesla shares, citing the refusal to sign collective bargaining agreements and Musk's political radicalization. Canada, meanwhile, is not only strengthening its economic ties with Europe, but also revising its military-industrial cooperation. Foreign Minister Melanie Joly confirmed that Canada is considering the purchase of European Gripen fighter jets from Saab in order to reduce its dependence on the American defense industry. At the same time, the CETA agreement has increased trade between the EU and Canada by 60% since 2017. Meanwhile, within the United States, an unprecedented economic crisis is brewing. Trump's supporters, farmers, veterans, and rural Americans, those who gave him their votes, have ended up suffering the most. Rising prices, job losses, supply chain disruptions, reduced access to health care, and mass bankruptcies are turning the economy into ruins. People are taking to the streets demanding real action. Against this backdrop, Canada is being hit with new tariffs: 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum, duties on lumber and automobiles. The new leader of the Liberal Party, Mark Carney, is stepping into the fight for economic sovereignty. Carney, former head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, stated, "We are not seeking conflict, but we will not back down." Canada's response: retaliatory tariffs on agricultural products and American electronics. But Trump claims this is not a trade war, but a measure to combat fentanyl. Nevertheless, U.S. Customs data shows that less than 1% of the drug comes from the Canadian side. The world is entering a new era, an era of multipolar financial architecture in which the dollar is no longer king, but just one of many players. And the main question now facing every investor, politician, and citizen is, what comes next? The reality is that the United States no longer controls the game. And while Washington tries to trap the world within tariff barriers and threats, other nations are building their financial infrastructure. Without the U.S., without the dollar, and without fear.